no, they walked on the floor! Hi, Dave Friedman, Hardwood Floor Refinishing 101. In this video, we're going to look at how to stain an oaked floor, and we're also going to look at how to remove footprints when someone's walked on your newly stained floor. It should be noted that prior to staining, the floor was drum sanded, edgered, then finish sanded to 80 grit with the Clark OBS 18 orbital sander. This job we're using the Early American Wood Stain by Urethane. As with all stains, oil-based stains, you want to slowly stir it to bring all the pigment up from the bottom of the can. You see how it just sits there? So as this sits in the shelf at your local retailer, you will see that the pigment settles right to the bottom of the can. Now, in this particular brand, or this particular tint of Early American isn't too bad because it's not really one of the darker stains. But when you get into the heavily pigmented stains, like dark walnut, ebony, or Jacobean, they will have a lot of the pigment settle to the bottom, and it settles like mud there. So you really have to be sure that you stir it up very thoroughly and bring it all into the liquid. So after stirring it for quite a while and you can feel there's no pigment on the bottom, then it's ready to use. You also have to stir it in the pan if it's sitting for quite a period of time. So when I'm staining, I like to saturate my applicator. It's just a standard Urethane 10-inch synthetic applicator. And what I do is I saturate the floor. So you can see I've applied the stain here now. Now I'm going to remove it with this. Remove it with a sponge mop. I'm going to show you what it looks like after I do that. So after you've applied the stain, you then take the sponge mop and you remove the excess, and it looks beautiful. On the ends of the planks, what I do is I just take this rag and you wipe it off. And you just blend it all, make it look right, make it look blended, that it looks normal. And then when that dries in, that's going to look beautiful. There's no marks, you can't see any edge lines, any marks like that. So that worked out really well. Now there is one thing I'd like to note about this sponge mop. I don't use it perfectly clean, I actually saturate it in the stain and wring it out. So the reason that you don't want it totally clean is when you go to wipe it off, if it's a brand new sponge mop, and you go to wipe it off, you'll actually remove too much of the stain, so you'll make it too clean, and then later on into the staining process, what's going to happen is it's going to get darker because your applicator and your sponge mop are going to begin to get really saturated, so it's going to look darker. Of course, you can always reapplicate and rinse your applicator, but in general, if you start off and it's all consistent from the beginning, you won't need to do that. So one thing you want to do when you're staining and when you're removing with the sponge mop, so as I said previously, you can do a total of 6. So you can do 1, 2, 3 will cover, the applicator will cover these 3, and then the next 3. So what I'll do is I'll do 2 entire widths of the applicator to get 6. And then when I remove it, I will, remove the same amount. Now, there's one thing you'd want to do as well when you're removing the stain. I'll actually go back to the 7th plank, so the 3, then the 7th, and start removing. And always stay on the seam of the planks when you're removing, because if you go halfway through a plank, you'll actually sometimes see a line difference from the applicator. So try to stay against your plank where the seams are, and you'll find you get a better result that way. Okay, so it's starting to look good now, shaping up. Just applying the stain, and I'll give you an overall look when I'm done. Okay, so I'm back on the job site here the following day, and some Yahoo decided it was a good idea to walk on the floor, so I just thought I'd point out how to correct this problem. So there was a big footprint here and over here, right by the door. I guess someone came in. And so now what we got to do is we're going to correct that. And you correct that by taking a piece of 100 grit paper. Where you see a footprint, we're going to blend it. We're going to sand it. So this is an after stain job here. We're going to see, because you got to get that footprint out. It looks ridiculous. Right? It's not the end of the world. I'm actually going to sand it out. These are the kind of things you have to deal with from time to time. You know, you request that nobody walk on the floor, but you know, could be someone had to get something, and so that's the first step. So the next step is to take our trusty tack cloth. So we want to wipe off this area with the tack cloth, just to remove all that dust we just sanded. Right. Now another thing you can do if you didn't have a tack cloth handy, and what I'll do sometimes, actually take tape. You just roll a piece of tape like this, and you go over the entire area. That was walked on where you sanded. Now I did already clean this with the tack cloth, but never hurts to do this anyway. If you didn't have a tack cloth, you can even just get a clean rag to get the majority of it, or if you could, I don't really like to run the vacuum cleaner onto the stained floor because it tends to put these wheel marks, and unless you're going to carry the vacuum on or you have a carry-on vacuum, you don't want to be doing that. So if you can extend your vacuum to vacuum it up, that's great. Sometimes you can. If it's just a small area, you don't really have to get all involved with the vacuum cleaner, but that's how you get it ready. So now we can restain those little spots there just to make them normal. I'll show you how we do that. So you just take your brush with the stain on it.
If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe to the channel.
Now here's where being Pablo Picasso comes in handy. You're actually using your vision just to blend this in. So now we had to apply stain. Wherever we took it off, we have to reapply some stain, right? I know what you're thinking, that this does not look right, and no it doesn't, but we're not done. So you just put some stain on there, right, on those spots where the footprints were sanded out. And then I'm going to take our clean rag and we're going to blend this in. And that's how you correct the boo-boos. Now it looks still wet, but the color, what we're looking for is the color to be completely blended. Right? It looks shiny because it's still wet, but so that blends in quite nicely. And now we've corrected the boo-boo. No more footprints. So here's an overall look of the room now. This is the following day. It's dried in. So it's all ready to go. It's nice and dry. Ready for the first coat of urethane.